Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
I got to talk. I got to tell what I feel. I got to talk about my life as I see it.
What's up, Mike?
Phil, I got more things to say on this podcast in one podcast than I've said over the last 20 podcasts, I think. We would have to record for 7 hours to get everything out of the way that's happened only in the last few days.
I feel your pain. Slow down, young man.
I know. Man, and I'm fired up here, so let's do it.
So I want to air some personal grievances for starting out.
Okay, I like that.
I have been a DJI guy since the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking back when they were just making a drone with no camera and you had to go buy your GoPro and stick it on there. And I have been very happy with DJI since the beginning. They have always listened to their customers. They've always improved. I think they are a leader in certain industries of imaging, especially drones. And there were rumors last year that there was going to be a mirrorless camera.
Mm-hmm.
Before I get into what I want to say, first I want to ask you: are you even interested in a DJI mirrorless camera, and do you think it will even be successful?
You know, that's a great question. I'm not actually sure I would be interested or not. I think it depends. I will echo what you just said, Phil. I love the DJI products. Not to put a plug in here for the video that came out on YouTube on my channel today, but it was entirely filmed with DJI products and all of the audio was recorded with DJI products. So I use their stuff. I think it's great. And if they put out a mirrorless camera, it's interesting. So I use on my big format cameras to film things, I use mirrorless, and I've been using the Lumix, the Panasonic Lumix GH5s for years. And but I would certainly consider DJI based on their performance and my results that I've gotten from everything else that I do. And as I just said, I just put a video up all DJI. And why is that? Because to be honest with you, for me, a lot of times the bigger format, meaning the mirrorless cameras, are bulkier. So I don't use them as much. So maybe that's why I would be less interested in it, possibly, but I would keep an open mind.
So what would DJI have to do as far as some feature or whatever or benefit to you for you to even be interested? Because you got a shitload of cameras already. So it's not like you need one. What would they need to introduce into mirrorless cameras that would make you say, hey, maybe I'll buy a new camera?
So I think with them, one of the things I like about DJI is their connectivity with your cell phone, with apps, with being able to get the material onto your computer to edit. That's one of the things I really like about DJI. I would say it's far better than companies like GoPro or like I just said, I use a Panasonic Lumix. That's more of a rigmarole to get the material off the camera, to be honest with you. And I think the other thing I'd be interested in would be some of their DJI is really good with movement, meaning like action stuff. So
image stabilization.
Yeah, stabilization and action stuff. So I think if they could take some of the stuff that we've learned on their other cameras and on their drones, I think that would be definitely worth looking at. Look, when it comes down to it, mirrorless cameras, SLR stuff, but basically it's based on the lenses though, right? So a lot of it has to do with what the offerings are on that front.
Well, for me, and I think DJI are the people who would do what I'm thinking. In order for me to be interested, they would have to create what I would call like a media hub. Like pretty much I can do everything I want really on my phone right now. Things I can't do, I can do with my action camera. But there are certain things I always have to go to my DSLR for, like a true depth of field and a high dynamic range image and stuff like that. If they created, if I were them, I would call it the hub. I need my mirrorless camera to do everything. And what I mean is, like Sony, I think is and Canon have really pushed video on their cameras, but it's still secondary.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people with mirrorless cameras, and they shoot maybe minimum 50% audio. So if DJI comes out with a camera that's more video focused, because I mean, there's not much more technology you need to just take a picture. It should be more focused toward video, and it should be like a hub for the other cameras. It should, when you pick up your mirrorless camera, it should be able to do what all the other DJI products do, other than fly and have a gimbal on it.
And while you mentioned that, it's interesting you're using the word hub, because I think they might be missing an opportunity if they integrated that camera with all of their other cameras.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That you could actually edit on. They could compete with like Final Cut Pro or one of the editing programs out there. You know, I think that's something that might be a long time coming.
And something else that I would like, but I think they are capable of doing, you know, since the beginning of time, a camera has looked the same from film all the way up until now. You buy a brand new Sony mirrorless camera, it looks like a 1980s DSLR. I believe that they are going to give us a different form factor, and that's what would be interesting to me, is it being more ergonomic in your hand, and maybe just a lens and an eyepiece, but it does everything. That's what would intrigue me.
Yeah, because honestly, DSLRs are awkward. One of the reasons I've stopped using it is because they're big and you can't get into small spaces as much, but they're also awkward to hold. You almost feel like you end up needing two hands to operate the darn thing, right?
You do. And they are hard to mount. If you're not putting them on a tripod, you got to buy some kind of cage.
And super hard to put on a gimbal. Let me tell you how hard it is to get a full-size DSLR with a decent lens onto a gimbal. I gave up. It's not even worth it. That's why I used, you know, the DJI Osmo here that I've got. Because it's it's a little camera that you can hold in one hand and it's got a gimbal on it already. So it's not worth it to me anymore. So if they could do that, I like your idea on a different form.
And so this brings me to the ugly part of it. And you're probably aware of this too. You owning a drone. There are different states and municipalities, their governments are issuing rules and regulations stating that they can't use any DJI products because they're Chinese. So that's one thing. And then for just the regular Joe Blow like me who uses the products, they've already taken away some features like geofencing. So you're on your own as far as being in the right place at the right time with your drone. And I ordered 2 drones, and I got my money refunded twice. It's been hard to get one shipped. It's been hard. You can't just buy one and get it delivered tomorrow on Amazon, which used to be normal. It's harder for them. It's already harder for them to get product into the US. There's very little DJI product as far as drones right now. So what I'm leading to is we just got a new president. How do you think it's going to affect? Do you think he's going to be for this? Because he's definitely not for China. But on the flip side, he has been doing a lot of negotiations in the past week with different people on the business and political side in China. So where do you think this is headed? Are we going to still be free to fly drones?
Phil, I think it just gave me a loaded question. Let me. Our listeners know that we're going into politics. This podcast, everybody knows that we're getting there. So don't you guys worry. If you're here to listen to politics, we're heading that way. So I'm going to stay out of it for another minute, and I'm going to be clear on my beliefs on this. If you think that banning DJI, as an example, that makes drones and cameras, and your philosophy is you're going to do it because it's from China. That's the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Okay, because every single item that we have pretty much in your home, it comes from China. Let's just be honest here for a second. So if you're going to suddenly, attack the drone or the camera because you've decided that that's a security risk, it's the same thing as TikTok. I mean, I said I was going to wait a minute. Are we in 60 seconds yet? I mean, look at the inauguration of Donald Trump this week. The oligarch, the techies, the wealthy, the people that control the world. Let's just be honest here, because the world is controlled by what? Communication, right? And media. And you had in attendance, I got a list going on in front of me. We got Sam Altman, you got Tim Cook, you got Zuckerberg, you got Jeff Bezos, you got Musk, you got Adelson, you got Murdoch, you had the two guys from Sudar, whatever his name is, from Google. That is those guys that he had at the inauguration. That's who is mining your data. Let's be honest with this. Like, give me a break. I mean, is China trying to steal our data? Yes. But is Tim Cook and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk trying to steal our data? Hell yeah. So, I mean, you'd have to live in a cave. So to get back to the DJI thing for a second, I don't think that to me, it's not realistic. My personal belief is that Trump, who, like you said, hates China, and I would argue rightfully so, but he's a business guy. So it's the same thing. Look, he went on TikTok and figured out, hey, this is a cool app. I might have got help. It helped me get elected as president of the United States because I used TikTok. So he goes, well, this is a decent platform. Other people use it as well. Other people use it for many reasons. And I think the business side of him says, live and let live. And I personally think he's going to feel the same way about DJI. I find it hard to believe that they're going to ban. I don't see it happening.
Well, I think it's because I think Trump will do it because he's a businessman, but not in the sense that you were saying it. He's a businessman and he sees an opportunity for himself.
Yep. And it's leverage, right? It's leverage. When it comes down to it, he's all about leverage. He also, by the way, I didn't list on my list of names I just gave you. The CEO of TikTok was also there. Shame on me for forgetting that. So you just covered the guy that owns, Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and YouTube and TikTok. I mean, they were all there. There was, and Elon Musk owns X. So every single social media platform was there. And what do all these things create? This creates leverage. And with the Chinese, this is leverage. TikTok is leverage. It's a negotiation item. Hey, we'll let TikTok go. We'll let DJI go. But we got to make a trade deal, but there's going to be a tariff on something else, or whatever the leverage case is. That's what's going to happen.
I agree. There was a whole silent conversation going on by the mere inviting of those people and those people coming. That was a silent conversation. Those were tiny chess moves. That keeps every one of them in line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, A, it keeps them in line, and B, it sets a precedent. Look, we recognize that really the most look. It used to be the president of the United States was the most powerful guy in the world. We recognize that really the most powerful people in the world are the ones that control the communication and that have the deep pockets. So I'm going to put those guys in the front row here.
When was it not like that?
It's always been like that. But the reality of it is, it's always been like that. But Phil, there's a big difference between 2025 and 1986. I mean, and the newspaper, like, it's way more effective today because it's quicker.
Oh, okay.
And there's vast majority of the population can get the information very quickly and are plugged into it, right? And it's a two-way street. So before it was only a one-way street, right? If you read the New York Times in 1986, they were telling you something. The difference today is on social media, I have some amount of say too. You and I are talking on a podcast right now. People are listening to us out there. So we have say, right? Words matter. Well, what we say, so it's a two-way, it's still a two-way street. And by the way, we're using those guys that were sitting in the audience, our platform right now that we're talking on and posting these videos and audio to. All those guys were in attendance.
Well, let's take that. When TikTok came back online, I posted our the little thing I don't know what you call it, our little advertisement for the week's episode.
Yep.
They gave me a copyright strike for audio.
Who did? TikTok?
TikTok.
Yep.
And it said, if you think this isn't right, you click, and then they sent back, and they was like, no. So that they're not. We didn't have any music playing or anything like that. So they are literally telling me you can't talk in any way that might insinuate anything negative about TikTok.
Which, by the way, has happened on all of the social media platforms.
So I'm just merely making the point that, you're talking like we're free we ain't free to say stuff because they just did it to me this week. Yeah.
Well, I mean, free is a strong word. It's like when people say they own something. Yeah, owning property, as an example, is a strong statement, right? So, yeah. But I mean, we can go on about this, but at the end of the day, by the way, this is a super important conversation to be had, because I think, I've got a list here of things that have happened this week. You remember back in when we invaded Iraq or whatever, and it was called the shock and awe thing. This just what's happened in the last couple of days here has exceeded the shock and awe. Like, it made that seem like it was a little kid's playground on the merry-go-round. I mean, this. Can I get into politics? Or maybe we did. The difference. Look, here's my statement, and you can run with this, Phil. My statement is, whether you like Trump or you hate Trump, or you liked Biden or you hate Biden, or the different administrations, the contrast between the two of them is mind-staggering. Absolutely mind-staggering. I think Trump actually did more in 3 days than Biden has done possibly in his whole life.
Well, what has he done? I can't think of nothing. I can tell you about bills he's passed and things he's done, but I can't tell you anything that Biden has done positive for America in his entire career. There's no historic signing. There's no bill. There's no great speech. There's nothing.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't even mean necessarily good, because you could argue that some of the Trump things are stupid or bad, but the point is that there's action. I mean, for me, it's action. There's action happening where there was no action happening before, and that to me is what makes a difference between Sunday and Monday of this week. Sunday, no action. Monday, flurry of action.
Well, no. And it makes your point. There was action by Biden. Showed he could make some action in the last couple of weeks. He was doing all kind of stuff in the last 2 weeks. He showed you that he could have done a lot, which makes it even worse.
Makes it worse. That's right. But I mean, let's talk about what Biden did in the last few weeks. I mean, he did you know, he arguably did a bunch of stuff against his own party. He did a bunch of stuff that he promised that he wouldn't do. He did stuff almost in a spiteful way. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that maybe Trump hasn't done that too, but supposedly, you know, Biden should have been above all of that. You know, even in the last look, he pardoned people while Trump was giving a speech 15 minutes before Trump took over office. I mean, do you know Biden pardoned more people than, I believe, I have to check the math on it, but I think he pardoned more people than the previous 4 presidents combined. It was like 4,800 people or something like that.
Yeah.
Including, for the first time, he pardoned a bunch of people that aren't even in trouble.
I had a feeling about the pardons in the beginning, but they're both pardoning people who should not be pardoned. So nobody gets to be called a better person than the other on this, in my opinion.
Phil, I 100% agree, because Biden pardoned a bunch of people that either A, shouldn't have been pardoned or didn't need to be pardoned because it was a preemptive strike against Trump. And then Trump came in and pardoned 1,500 people that were involved in the January 6th thing, sort of arbitrarily. I'm against that too. I personally, I made a list of things that Trump did on his first day in office. And we could talk about some or all of them, but on the top of the list was the 1,500 pardons. To me, that goes in the negative category. I'm not impressed by that. I think that that's a mistake.
I agree, bro. So in my opinion, so far, Trump is just doing what every other president has done. He is not showing himself to be an outstanding, or that he's singular or special or he's better than. He's just another president.
I don't totally agree with that. There's no other president has done that many actions on day one. Nobody.
Okay,
not even close.
If you're looking at stats, I agree. But if you're looking at the way he moves, they in general all move the same. Biden pardoned people he shouldn't. He pardoned people he shouldn't. Other administrations have done executive orders and stripped away the last presidents. He's done it. I could go down.
Similar. Yes.
So I could go down the list. His actions are extremely similar. Maybe the stats, maybe he's putting up 40 and the other guy only put up 20, but they both are shooters.
Yeah, although some of his are more. If you discount the ones on my list that were basically rescinding ones that Biden put in, if you focus only on the new ones, right? So these are new actions that he wants to do. There's some pretty big ones on there.
And everything that he erased of Biden's wasn't a good thing to erase. So he did, again, similarity between him and Biden. A lot of those executive orders were spiteful moves. Yep. They don't move the pendulum. They don't do nothing.
Except that this time around, I can see more of the executive actions becoming law, because I think right now he has a wave of support. He's got, I would argue he has an unprecedented support.
I agree.
And that turns into executive action, turns into law. So
I disagree.
I think it does, because if you can get the House and Senate to make a law, and you can get the Supreme Court
I agree with
side,
that.
Oh yeah. So that's how it turns into law.
But I believe that I want to give a number that I'm going to stand on. I'm going to go out on a limb and say at least half of his executive orders will end up not being won't go through.
I would agree with that. Yes, I would agree with that.
A lot of that was showmanship. It goes back to what I say. They all just is cinema to make you think, oh, see, the first day he said he was go in the office and do all the executive orders. Yeah, but half the stuff he signed, he don't think it's gonna go through.
No, but what he is good at is creating that perception, which turns into leverage.
That's what I just said.
We're back to leverage, though. Look, Phil, I'm down here in Mexico. Let me tell you, they're fucking scared shitless of what's going on right now. Scared shitless. So he has within in 2 days, he's managed to make a government, a different government, not his own, take notice, start creating action, trying to figure out what to do, and he's got people talking about it. That's the goal. So even if the executive actions don't actually happen, he has moved millions of people to think about it. And that's what he's trying to do.
Okay. I disagree. I believe that a lot of those, I believe that some of the things he signed is exactly what you just said. But a majority of the things he signed, it was all theater.
Well, give me an example. Let's not talk airy-fairy here. Give me an example of what's theater.
Okay, check it out. I'm sure I'm going to agree on some of I'm
these.
going to give you something, but I need to look it up because I didn't think we were going to have this conversation. But before we offer this podcast, I promise you I'll give you a bunch of stuff.
Well, let me give you some theater. I got a couple theaters. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America is theater. Right. I mean, first of all, I don't think anybody gives a flying shit what it's called. That's just I don't know. I mean, that's just some obsession.
Okay. Ending birthright citizenship. You're not going to win that.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. That's a good question. Don't know. I don't know. There's a fair amount of people that are in. You'd have to take a temperature of the populace of what that is. I don't really know. I would say yes. That's going to be a very difficult fight for sure.
Does it work retroactively?
No.
And there are a lot. I know it does. I'm rhetorical. And there are a lot of people who are literally going to have to vote for something like this that would end up being affected by this. There are literally people in political office that would be affected by this.
Yep.
So I would love bro, I'm so far on the other side of this. Not only would I like them to end birthright citizenship, I would like that we cannot have a president who cannot prove his lineage at least for 150 years in America.
Can any of us prove that?
I can. You can't, bro. Trust me, you can prove with little effort. It'll probably be easier for you.
Well, my family hasn't been in America for 150 years.
Okay, and I don't think anybody in your family should be able to. I feel like you have to have enough. You got to have something in the fight.
Yes, I mean I don't disagree with that. I don't know about 150 years. I think that's a lot of generations.
Well, I'm willing to negotiate 100 to 150 years, and the reason why I'm picking that number, and I can understand you thinking, "Whoa, that's just outrageous." I want a person who moved here, immigrated here, or whatever, and there's been enough generations to have gone past where they are Americanized in mindset. I talk to people who are 2, 3, 4, 5 generations here, and they still got an accent. They still talking about their country is better than America. They still have those kind of mindsets. Mm-hmm. I live in a city where it's very diverse, and everybody is claiming their countries other than America all around me. All around me. They're more proud of their other country than they are America. And
you don't think that's going to pass?
Oh, absolutely not. It ain't even gonna. that'll probably be the first one get knocked out because it's so easy to get knocked out and embarrass him.
All right, give me another one.
Okay. You said you had some, so give me one of yours.
I got lots. Well, I mean, I got all. That's what he did. I mean, I can go down the list here. He. Let's see here. Well, he's like you said, these are executive actions. So this has to be, or I could be wrong, but I believe this needs to be approved by somebody. But he's going to withdraw from WHO, the World Health Organization.
And so you don't think that's going to happen?
I don't know that he has the power to do that. Do I think we should? Yeah, I think the WHO is stupid. But
let's see, that's the one he got. I think he ain't got can't nobody question that. That's the one I think he got full power to write executive orders on.
I think he does, but I think it has to get approved to become permanent or something. But because that
it's not an executive order.
Yeah, I think we can do it temporarily or whatever. But I think it has to. There's some process to it. I was reading about. Because it has to do with the UN, right? I think. Well, here, let's just pick a random one. He said he's going to, one of his orders was to reinstate military personnel that were kicked out because they were not vaccinated.
Say that again?
And wants to reinstate all military personnel that were kicked out of the military or banned from operations because they were not vaccinated. And
you're saying that that it will happen or it won't?
Yes, he did an executive order ordering them to be reinstated.
I understand that, but I'm saying, are you saying that you're thinking that that's one of the silly ones that won't pass, or are you?
No, I'm asking you. What do you think of that?
I think that one will pass.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think that one.
It's because one, he has the actual power to do it. Because we have examples of executive orders that align with this. Don't ask, don't tell. Right. Then finally allowing, those were all executive orders initially. Mm-hmm. And there was a majority against them, and they couldn't fight so I know that's a strong executive order that can't be fought.
Okay.
And it's also something that you'll have a majority of people happy about. People generally, even if they have a opposing opinion, they generally always support the troops.
Agreed. So I think that, to me, I'm putting that into the positive category. So I think that was a positive thing to do. How about removing non-binary as an option federally, and stating that you have to choose with your passport or any other official document that you have to choose one of two genders?
So let me be clear. There would only be male and female.
That is correct. That is what the executive action says. There will be only two federally recognized genders, male or female.
I think it'll pass. And it hurts me that we reached a point where someone has to pen logic, write logic, legislate logic, in my opinion.
See, Phil, we're on the same team here. We're agreeing on this, so this is good. Yeah, I totally echo that. And the fact that we have to talk about this is stupid.
I just want to be clear on something, and I know you align on me with this because we've hung out too much. We ain't got no problems. Wait a minute, and if you diverge from me, speak up, Mike. But I really think I speak for you right now. Neither one of us cares about who anybody sleeps with. No. We've invited all kind of people to our parties. We hang out with all kind of people. We're friendly with all kind of people. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. No. But I'm not going to pretend you're a boy when you're a girl. And I'm not going to pretend you're a girl when you're a boy. And I'm not going to address you as anything other than a boy or a girl. So
I'm on board.
Okay.
Yep. I believe that will pass too.
People will immediately say, if you disagree with those terms and those nouns and everything, that, oh, okay, so you hate gay people, or you hate. No,
No, it's not relevant. No, it's not. It's a totally different conversation.
Yeah, they and that's why most people won't speak their feelings because they don't want to get lumped into something that they're not.
Exactly. All right, here's another one. He did an executive order, which is actually already successful because he has the power to do it. Whether or not it stays that way or not, we withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord.
Yeah, I think that'll go. That'll definitely pass. We'll have people the whole 4 years upset about it, but yeah, I don't think that'll budge at all. And
yeah, I agreed. And a lot of obviously that has the background of that. If for those of you that are not understanding this, because I have plenty of friends that are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we pulled out of this thing." Well, the whole agreement's a piece of garbage, anyways. The bottom line is, because it's all comes down to money, and there's no there's no mandate, right? So there's no guarantee that anybody else is actually upholding any of the actions, and it was all about you saying what you're going to do, and even you could get out of doing what you were going to say you're going to do. So the whole thing is just a load of bullshit, really. So yeah, we shouldn't be in that. It's a waste of time.
In my lifetime, anytime there has been any kind of treaty, whether it be biohazardous materials, whether it be bombs or whatever it is, we seem to be the only ones who actually follow whatever the thing is, and everybody else breaks the rule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The reason why Russia has like 10 bombs for every one we got is because they never stopped making them.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, let's sign an agreement and we're going to do it and nobody else does. So it's like, let's not do that.
And that happens with tariffs. That happens with everything, man. And I believe that is one of the pillars of what was attractive about Trump to a lot of people. Is somebody's going to actually be like, man, we ain't no punk. Don't treat us like one.
Yeah.
That's really what's happening.
Which, by the way, is Trump's argument for the United Nations, for NATO, for the World Health Organization, for that treaty. All of those things are financial. And his argument is that we always put way more than our fair share into all of those things, which is true.
We basically finance all that
all
shit.
of them. Yeah, exactly. So I get it. Those I get. All right. How about returning all government workers to the office?
That's going to happen. What do you think? So you got to give me your opinion.
Well, I think it's going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, look, if your employer says you got to go back to the office or you can't work here, that's going to happen. And last time I checked, Trump is at the top of the chain of the government, right? So if the guy at the top says everybody's got to go back to the office, yeah, it's going to happen.
And I believe that's going to increase efficiency, and you're going to see it. And not efficiency, efficiency, but I meant productivity. Mm-hmm. It's going to, I think you're going to see it visibly in all parts of government fast. Because I know people not only who work in the government, but who have other types of jobs where they work from home. I live in a city where like it's a high percentage. It was like in the national newspaper, like it was one of the highest percentage of people who work from home, online and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I get to see these people. If I go out on my balcony or open the door or whatever and look outside, there'll be people riding their bikes past. That's supposed to be at work.
Yeah.
Pushing their babies in carriages, supposed to be at work, at the park, everything.
Yep.
And I'll literally be having conversation. Oh, that's my job. I have to hurry them, and they'll get in their car. They're only 5 minutes away, so they can, and go home. Mm-hmm. And then do a Zoom call. But the whole rest of the day, they ain't done nothing. So I'm looking forward to, because I'm their boss. If you're a government employee, I'm your boss. I want you back at work, and I want you being productive. I'm tired of you getting free money from me.
Yep.
And I don't ever get no free money. I ain't never got no free money in my whole life.
Yep.
I don't ever qualify for no free money. Somehow, it's like I think when they make financial decisions in the government, Mike, they literally be like, okay, so how much money do Phil make? What does he got? Okay, make it $1 more than that or less than that. I swear.
Yep, does seem that way, doesn't it? Along with that, returning to the office, he also announced that they're going to do a hiring freeze, which it goes along with that. And then my next thing, it goes along with the creating the. What do you think about this Department of Government Efficiency that apparently is being run by only Elon Musk now because Vivek Ramaswamy is no more?
So I have a question to that question. If we have the Born in America birthright thing pass, does that disqualify the two guys in charge of the DOGE from working there?
Mm-hmm. Well, you just said for president. You can't. If you limited it down to government, we'd have real problems. We wouldn't have enough employees.
No. I'm talking about he signed the executive order for birthright citizenship.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, did you say he would get rid of those guys? No.
Yeah.
No. He's talking about, well, my understanding of that is talking about going forward, not the past. And it wasn't ending it. Well, it's worded as ending it, but I think it's not ending it. I think it is limiting it or making it more specific, meaning that there's qualifications to it where you have to go through some kind of process. It's not automatic.
I'm confident that it'll be worded and orchestrated in a certain way that certain ethnicities from certain regions won't have no problem and others will. So I'm not in agreement with that. Yeah. I know that's how it'll be. How
understand. Yep.
Because that's how it's always been. Because it bothers me that European. I know so many people from Europe that are here, and
it's called quotas.
Been here they ain't even quotas. They supposed to be gone, and they've been here 5, 10, 15 years.
Yep. Exactly.
And got a job. I'm like, how are you legally employed? I've had a boss before that was from Europe, so. I don't want to see none of that unless they're going to make it. If you ain't from America, period, and don't pick countries or have caveats or any of that.
Yeah, then that's the problem. By the way, that's been one of our biggest immigration problems over the last 50 years. Is that
longer than that?
But even more recently with what I'm referring to as quotas, where we're okay if you come from X country, but we're not okay if you come from Y country. And it's not the same price. It's not the same availability, et cetera, et cetera. It's, look, he declared, in sentence number 2 of his speech yesterday or the day before, whatever, that it was going to be a meritocracy, right? Based on merit. So I would argue it's the same concept. If we want immigration, right?
Oh God. It's kind of hypocritical for him to be the meritocracy president.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I know the listeners can't figure me out. They're like, wait a minute. All the way up until this point, it seemed like Philip was for Trump. Now, all of a sudden, it sounds like I'm not for none of them, you listeners.
Exactly. Because we're just telling you the way it actually is. That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
So we never said we were on anybody's team. Okay. This is a personal thing for me here. So we're going to talk about this. These next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things all have to do with Mexico, which is I am currently sitting in. Capital punishment for undocumented immigrants that cause murder or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Designate cartels as terrorist organizations, the Remain in Mexico policy, end of catch and release program, resume building the wall, and declaring a national emergency at the border. So all of those 6 items, separate executive orders, have to do with Mexico.
I would like them to extend the terrorist thing to even more organizations, not just the. So I'm not against. I'm for everything you just said. I would like it to just expand even more. Actually,
Well, here's my problem with it. I'm not in principle against any of these things. However, particularly capital punishment for undocumented people committing murder. How about just capital punishment for anybody committing murder, period? I don't know. I mean, I don't even understand that thing, but whatever.
that would be a good ethics, moral conversation, because what they're basically saying is an American life is more valuable than a
yes
person from another country.
Yes, agreed. The Remain in Mexico policy, which has not would indeed have to be agreed to by Mexico. The end, catch, and release thing, I get. Building the wall just makes sense. I mean, can we just complete the damn wall? Look, at the end of the day, it's not 100%. Obviously, as we know, the wall isn't going to stop everybody, but it is part of a larger program of things to restrict the border. Let's just say. Creating a national emergency at the border, effective yesterday, sent troops to the border. So that I'm okay for that. That's needed. I'm skeptical about the designating cartel as terrorists, and the reason I say that is designating them as terrorists is one thing, particularly if it's financial, and we can somehow financially restrict these groups. If it's military, then I have a problem with it, because the issue that we're having down here in Mexico right now is that it's been destabilized significantly since last summer, when we essentially militarily took out a couple of the leadership in the Sinaloa cartel. So that has not helped Mexico at all. So the problem is, and the reason I'm against that is, by passing that, what he's attempting to do is create the possibility that we could militarily shoot a missile at, say, a cartel compound. The problem with that is, I can tell you firsthand from being on the ground here, if you weaken the cartel, the situation here right now is it further weakens Mexico, for one. It creates a scenario here where we have violence going on, and two, effectively you're just weakening your border, because now Mexico doesn't have a strong enough government or situation to prevent. Because let's put it this way, Mexicans aren't trying to get into America. It's the other countries that are transiting through Mexico. We need Mexico to be stronger. And by the way, if we're going to take out China, and China's going to take it out itself anyways. In 10 years, China's gone anyways. But if we have plans to take out China, you got to replace it with something. So, Central America, Mexico, somebody's got to make your cheap goods.
Mike, I'm a little confused. Please connect the dots for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not understanding what's the negative, like, if for Mexico, if they got rid of the drug cartels?
Because the negative. So what happened last summer is that the Americans, it was an American-funded, American organized plot. Basically, we took out several of the Sinaloa cartel leadership. And what's happened now is that it's created a civil war inside the cartel. So that particular cartel, and there's two actually cartels that are having a quote civil war, and they're fighting. So what that's done now is it's a bunch of people have gotten caught in the crossfire. They've killed hundreds and hundreds of politicians. They've, they're hanging people's heads from telephone poles and whatnot. This is because they're fighting. So we've destabilized a very powerful. It would be like lopping off the head of Elon Musk, sort of, and taking him out of control of all his companies. The company would start internally. People would be trying to fight to take over control, and that's what's happened. So what it's done is it's destabilized the society, and Mexico has had to put way more resources than they did before into trying to keep the peace, and the more resources that they put into doing this, the less attention there is on their borders. Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Chinese, the Arab nations coming through, and they end up at the U.S. border. So in a sense, it destabilizes our own border, and that's been the problem. And it's destabilizing the country that is borders America. So that's, and I'm not saying that cartels are good, but they do keep the peace. It's similarly to thinking what we did in Baghdad. We took out Saddam Hussein. How did that turn out for us? The guy was a bad guy, but the country became way less stable after we took him out.
So what is the effect on America with this? What do you see?
Border, more transients to the border. Well, two effects. One, it weakens Mexico, which means that more people transit through Mexico to the border. It increases violence, which is going to spill across the border because the cartels, let's be honest, the cartels aren't just on the Mexican side, they're on the U.S. side. So the Sinaloa cartel is a good example of that. They've got cartel headquarters in Texas and Arizona, in New Mexico. If they're in a civil war, they're effectively fighting in the United States as well. And on top of that, we need to, like I said, that my end part of that conversation is, where do we go next with trade? I mean, to me, Mexico seems like a really good option for trade. So, the labor is way cheaper than it is in the United States. So if we need to replace trade with, say, China or I'll just call them bad hombres, right? People that we don't like. Mexico is a good answer to, like, let's move production from China to Mexico. So you don't want to move it to a destabilized country.
But I thought the goal was, if we're going to take any pre-existing companies or corporations with manufacturing, we were trying to move them from China to America.
That's ideal. But let's just cut to the chase for a second. Do you honestly believe? Look, I mean, shit. My last couple of years at my restaurants, I couldn't get You can't get any Americans to do anything. So how in the God's earth are you going to get Americans to do? You're not going to get Americans to do those jobs that we look. I mean, contrary to what your liberal, green peeping lefties want to say when they buy their Patagonia, this stuff comes from China. It's made in a slave labor plant by 12-year-olds that are paid $1 a week, that are mistreated, raped, and smuggled. I mean, let's just say it like it is.
I agree with that.
So we can't get Americans to do that. So you're not going to get Americans to work for $1 a week. It's not going to happen. So we need to find another country.
I don't disagree with the way you are telling it, but I thought that was supposed to be the whole thing, that we've reached an understanding that, okay, we're going to have to buck up, move the stuff to America and pay those penny a day wages and bring those wages up to American standards. I thought that was the whole thing, and then that was supposed to help our economy. So I think that's if that doesn't happen, that's going to be like one more thing that's already happened in less than 24 hours of his presidency, where he ain't doing what he said.
Well, he's not saying this. Mike's saying this.
Oh.
I mean, he's no, I think to some extent he is saying we need to get the shit out of China. I don't think he's thought ahead. I'm just saying that I don't think I think his pie in the sky when he thinks we're going to move everything to America. I think we would be best to move intelligent jobs to America and manufacturing of, say, computer chips and automobiles and plastics and, things like that. I don't know that we're ever going to be able to move, the toothpick factory or, what's this other, cheapo Chinese shit that we all buy, like these glasses that I'm wearing right here that I get, 7 of them for $10. They come from China. That's never going to happen in the States. So I don't think you're going to be able to move everything here. So we need to find a place like that. The other problem is America doesn't have enough people. We just don't have enough people. I don't think we have enough people to make all this stuff. You need to find a country that has more people. So, I mean, my feeling is that the perfect country, if you ask me, would be like India, where it has like 1/3 of the world population and it's cheap labor.
It's really not that we don't have enough people. It's that companies that are in manufacturing, it's cheaper to have a little boy working, as opposed to having a modern day manufacturing plant in America that has robots and things that assist you. So it could be done. But every conversation, including this one, it seems like we have a concern for the manufacturer. He'll have to pay more money or whatever. Well, if it's a law, he'll have to pay more money.
The problem is that we've boxed ourselves. It's like you painted yourself in the corner. America has become too expensive. The overhead is too expensive. The property values, price of homes, things like that. Whereas this is where we have a tough time competing with India or Vietnam or Mexico or China or countries in Africa, where somebody can legitimately have a nice house, as an example. Like, I'll give you an example. Right down around the corner from me where I am. By the way, I'm in probably one of the most expensive areas in all of Mexico, but I can still go around the corner here and buy a very nice house for $150,000. You can't do that.
You can't do that nowhere in America.
No, and that's the problem. We've kind of painted ourselves into a corner where, it's hard to get cheap labor or enough unskilled labor. That's the other problem, is we've educated ourselves. And I'm not saying education is bad, but we've educated in a way, in such a way where it's led people away from trades and from wanting to work with their hands, which is the requirement of making most things, right? So we've created a whole culture of people that don't really want to do anything unless it's on a computer. And, that's sad. I mean, hell, I don't need to tell you, you're up in America. You know how hard it is to find an electrician or a plumber nowadays? It's like hard.
Yes, we don't have nobody that knows how to do anything. And even when they have the titles of like something like a plumber or a mechanic, they are not a plumber or a mechanic. They are a parts changer.
Yeah.
It's a
paper pusher.
You know what I mean by being a part? If something's wrong and they can't just remove that part and put a new one in, they don't know what the hell to do.
Exactly right. That's right. They've lost their trade, and that's a problem. And that's why I mean by when I say we painted ourselves into a corner, so that's anyways, that's my statement on that. Other things happened this week. They're saying he just made a mandate to get rid of the electric vehicle mandate. Yeah, we've talked about that on the podcast here. Good. Let free trade determine what we're going to buy. If you want to buy an electric car, buy an electric car. If you don't, then you don't. I'm all for that. He also did a thing about federal government land leasing to wind farms. I think,
it's not bad, but it ain't like
it ain't
that
good.
Don't move the needle so much.
Exactly.
That's a
waste
medium.
of time.
That's a lukewarm one right there.
Yeah, it's a lukewarm one. It's kind of a waste of time. What else happened? Let's see here. Oh, this is a good one. I like this one, Phil. This is one I like. He wants to create a service, a part of the government called the External Revenue Service. I thought that was, I think that's genius.
So why do you think it's genius?
Because we've spent all this time over the years with the IRS. The IRS is always constantly hunting down American citizens to collect their money and to make sure that every single American citizen pays their damn bill all the time. Why on earth would we not have somebody in an external revenue service that makes sure that when we loan money or we give it to another country or a foreign citizen that we don't get the money back? That makes sense to me. If we're going to hunt our own people, we might as well hunt them too.
I wanted you to say that because everybody don't know what these things are, bro. So some people might just be lost. So thanks for that explanation.
I think it's genius.
I do too. Some of the things I've argued today, bro, I've just been the devil's advocate.
Oh, no, I understand. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I come across on this podcast today of supporting all this stuff, I'm excited about two things. The number one thing I'm excited about is There's at least some discussion going on. I feel like action's happening, like something is happening, like and maybe it's not all good, but at least it's getting people riled up, because I feel like we've been in a fucking coma for forever. So that I like, and I'm excited about hearing that it I'm gonna take flack for saying this, but this is probably not even going to be popular, but I was excited to see at the inauguration all of those people that I listed earlier, and there were many more than what I listed. Because let's think about this for a second. All within one row, you had Tim Cook, who, let's be honest, he's about as far left as you can get, right? He is not a Trump supporter. I mean, this guy was this. He's
his
a lefty.
Flag is pink.
Yeah. You got Zuckerberg. Who the hell knows what that guy is? You got Bezos. You got Musk. You got all these guys. But these are brains, right, wrong, or indifferent. I was excited to see people that actually have power to move the needle on things, and whether it's going to be necessarily in the right direction or not is to be seen by what they do. But you didn't just load the room, because I can name some. I'm not going to name names, but I can name some past inaugurations where the room was just full of average Joes, people I met in the diner, and this guy on the campaign trail that got wronged and he lost his arm and he got sued, and all the you know how it is when they're doing their campaigning, and you just had a whole room full of regular Joes. These people aren't going to move a needle anywhere. I was excited to see wealthy, intelligent people that own companies there. And that's probably not a popular opinion, but I'm just telling you.
I'm glad they were there, but I'm not as hyped as you and feel the same way as you do, because history has proven that the richest and the most intelligent people with the highest IQs are generally the most cruel. They are the most narcissistic. They usually have the most heinous proclivities sexually, and they are usually very macabre-minded type people in my mind.
I'll give you that.
So I'm not saying that they're not necessary. I'm just saying when it's nothing but them in a room, like how you're stating, that causes me concern, because they'll have the kind of conversations where you and me are just, we're no different than cattle in their thinking and decision.
Okay, agreed. But
and our lives are just a calculation.
But don't you see some honesty in it? Like they filled the room. Well, listen, but hold on. Meaning they filled the room full of these people plus past and former presidents, socialites and media stars and rock stars, and Carrie Underwood was, so
it is disgusting.
But hold on. But it's the fucking truth, Phil. That's the truth, and it's been the truth. It was the truth when Biden got elected. It was the truth when Obama got elected. It was the truth when Clinton got elected. It was the truth when Bush got elected. But they didn't fill the room full of these people because they were fucking lying. They were filling the room full of a bunch of fucking average Joes that came out of the coffee shop and saying, hey, we're here for the people, blah, 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 blah. No. That's lying. This is true. These are the people that actually control shit.
This is where I diverge from almost everybody else. Nothing's changed, but one is open about it and one is not.
Yes, and that's my point.
But so I don't care about that. Again, that's cinematics. I don't.
It is.
So
it is. But he's not. But okay. But you can't sit here and say, you can't be on the other side. You can't be Rachel Maddow on TV saying Trump's full of shit. He's lying. Oh no, he's not. He's put it right on display for you. He's admitting it. That, to me, that goes leaps and bounds farther than Joe Biden ever did.
So basically, if I shoot you and I admit it, It don't hurt as much.
No, I'm not saying that. No. I understand what you're saying. But to me, it was a breath of fresh air because like he wasn't lying. This is how it is. And I'm not hiding it. They didn't have a bunch of, it wasn't a parade of amputees up there.
I get it, bro.
It was also interesting to see.
Like I said, bro, I want talented people in talented positions. I played sports. I totally, my mindset embodies the idea of meritocracy. I totally.
But if you're going to run a meritocracy, don't you want your top people?
But a lot of the people that that you're defining as top people, I can break each and every one of them down. Was it really a meritocracy? Did they really? Can you really say any of those people from start to finish where they got to, how they got there? It was through merit. In most cases, Zuckerberg, when he was coming out of college and he started Facebook, if you know anything about,
he started to pick up chicks.
He stole it.
Yeah, and stole it.
Okay, so where's the merit in that? And
but
I can break down
but I could also argue. And look,
let me just make my point. Each and every one of them, if you really have kept up with and really know from birth to today their life story, none of them follows the edict of meritocracy. Not one.
Well, I feel like I'm defending Zuckerberg because you brought him up here, and I can't stand the guy. But and I agree. The story is, he basically he stole it. Well, he was partners a little bit on the app, and it was not about what it was doing. But in any case, that was many years ago. From that point at which he stole it to today, I mean, it's
from
not
that
the
point
same
to
thing.
today, everything he has comes from that. Without that, he has nothing. He's just another boy in college.
But not everybody could bring it from that to this.
He ain't bright. Have you watched interviews? He ain't bright.
Somehow he got it here.
Because he stole it.
He didn't steal it at the size that it's at, Phil. He stole it when it was a little piece of shit, not worth fucking $10.
Why are you excusing that I stole the car? Yeah, I may have souped it up and put rims on it and put a fridge in the truck and all of that, but I stole the car.
Yeah, I understand.
So
but then you
don't get credit for building it up and.
But you're saying you stole the car. I'm saying he stole the car, and then but now Facebook is a dealership chain. I mean, so it's not still just a car. It's how did it get to today? He stole it. Yeah. That's the answer. How did he get? He stole it worth $10, and now it's worth $2 billion. How'd that happen? You are literally eliminating the root cause of his success. I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm not arguing that he stole it. I'm not arguing the root part of it. You can't give him credit for nothing. I could give him credit for bringing it from that to when he stole it to today. This is just like if I stole signals at a football game and I want to brag about winning the Super Bowl afterwards. You still had to do something to win the Super Bowl, though. Wow. Our mindset on that is completely different. You still stole the signals. The signals may not even actually helped you win the game, but you stole the signals. You don't get credit for winning. I don't think that's a good comparison because you're discarding the last 15 years of progress in the company of which he runs. What, bro? Do you think he's writing code and he's no? But he's running. But he was running the company. There are a lot of people who ain't even went to school who could make logical decisions that may have even gotten the company further than him because he is not smart. Maybe. That's what I'm saying. I'm not a Zuckerberg fan, but when a person is set up in a position to succeed,
You don't give him no credit.
Okay, Phil, let me rephrase it a different way. If I was getting inaugurated president, I'd rather have Mark Zuckerberg at my inauguration than the fucking guy that was sweeping fucking Mark Zuckerberg's office in California. Like, I mean, it's just the way it works.
And I wouldn't. I wouldn't want either one of them. Neither
because
one of
I
them
want to get. But my goal is to get something done.
Okay, I wasn't arguing that point. I was merely, you were like praising like these, like it's
no, I'm not praising them.
That all of these rich assholes that have done nothing positive but for themselves, like it's this great thing. They are not going to move the needle for you and me in any kind of way.
I don't agree with that.
And they don't care about you.
Because I do agree with that, but I don't agree that they're not going to move the needle, because the key is that if your commander in chief is utilizing them to move his agenda, which in turn is moving the needle of the country, that's how it helps you. I agree they're not doing it for you or me.
This is the crux of the issue then. What do you think Trump's agenda is?
Nobody knows.
I said, what do you think his agenda is? And I know you're a smart boy.
I mean, see, I look at politics very different. No. I look at politics very different. I think his agenda has always been and always will be about him. Okay. I think that he's a narcissist. But if his policies and agenda aligns with me, then I'm for it. If I'm more aligned with, if I think XYZ candidate that's against him is more in line with me, then I'm for them. So I personally believe that everybody is in it for themselves. You and I included. Yes. So I think that if I can look at that stage and I can see Zuckerberg sitting there, and in my mind I go, well, let's see, Zuckerberg's sitting there. Trump's going to try to use him for something, and that's going to push Trump's agenda. And I think Trump's agenda is going to help me somehow. Then, unrelated, but Zuckerberg's helping me. He doesn't want to, and I don't think Trump does either. But
I would love for you to draw me a line from Zuckerberg to you.
I mean, it would be a convoluted line, let me tell you, but
and it'd never reach you.
Yeah, well, I agree. He is not.
Other
it's
than
all
that
about
you
him
give
too.
Him money, that you spend time on his stuff.
Yes. Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
You get caught up in the cinematics and don't realize where you are in the play.
No. I just, like I said, Zuckerberg is going to help me inadvertently more than the guy that cleans his office. That's just a fact.
Mike, we're going to have to talk about this more offline. I can really tell you how I feel.
How do you feel?
Everything that you said.
How do you feel about this?
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is the funny part.
You may be watching the last podcast. I know it's the first one. No, it's the second one in 2025.
No, this is the third.
I didn't mean for it to end this way. But it looks like it may be coming down to root ideological thoughts, feelings, morals, all of that stuff.
Okay. How do you feel about this, Phil? What's your thoughts on changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico and or changing the name of Denali to Mount McKinley? This is light, I think.
It's light, but it's not that simple. Leave the Gulf of Mexico alone. That's what it's always been called. In my research, the only difference in name it's ever had is the same name, but in Spanish. So
I'm with you. I think it's stupid.
Now, Mount McKinley, I think it should go back to Mount McKinley.
Okay.
So, and here's where my people with good tans watching the show are gonna be pissed at me.
Uh-oh. Why?
I'm about to say it. If a person in America did something in history where they felt at some point it was relevant enough to build them a statue, name a street after them, or whatever. And we come to find out that they've done some things, as long as they ain't touched no kids or nothing like that, their name don't get removed from whatever it is. They don't get their name removed from a mountain or whatever. It was called originally Mount McKinley. So, and that's pretty much, you can ask me any questions about namings and stuff. Whatever the original name was, that should be the original name of whatever it is. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Wasn't Obama's argument it was originally Denali, that the natives called it Denali or something originally, wasn't? I thought that was the argument, but
that was the argument. But if you also remember, there was a whole bunch of reports that came out and different little blurbs on you where they actually interviewed indigenous people and they didn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, and that's another thing that bothers me. And every side does it. Every seasoned politician does it. They try to align their decisions with ideologies or races or ethnicities to make it look better why they made a move. He don't care about them indigenous people. Because if he did, he'd have got to know some of them and find out what their opinion was. Right. It's just like the Washington Commanders that used to be the Washington Redskins, that name change. I do believe it was messed up to have that name. So that ain't what I'm saying. But after they done asked all the indigenous people what they think, and they said, we don't give a fuck.
I know.
That should have been the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you feel like
they weren't doing it for them. The bottom line is they didn't change the name for them.
Right. A lot of times people do stuff to make themselves feel better. You know what's sickening to me that's happening a lot to me lately? I'll be talking about some major social issue, some moral thing or whatever. And a person, you know what they'll say? They'll be like, yes, that struck my heart. And I tweeted just yesterday. No, you can check. I posted it just yesterday. You check my tweet. I said that I'm totally... Okay, what the fuck? I don't give a fuck about your tweet.
Yep.
And you'll have people say it like they have really helped push the bar by doing nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
Mike, you got anything else you want to say?
Man, it's going to be a long year.
And guys, we just have a time limit on the podcast. Something tells me we'll be coming back to this because Mike got a lot more to say, and I got a lot more to say about this.
Perfect.
All right, guys. You know what I'm going to say. Stay safe. Tread lightly. And hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.